So hi everyone, it's great to be here tonight. So my name is Jozef Wallis. I'm going to be hosting this small panel here this evening. A little bit about my background. So I've been in the marketplace ecosystem for probably 10 years, still smiling, just about. I was a co-founder of a two-sided marketplace called toothpick.com, which was acquired a couple of years ago. And then went on to consult in many other marketplaces in all different types of sectors before founding and co-founding with my business partner here tonight a business called Booxscale. And Booxscale is essentially the marketplace of marketplaces. So what we do is we aggregate marketplaces together from every different vertical or multiple marketplaces in the same vertical, whether that be food delivery, cleaning services, building services, taxi firms, into one sort of fire hose feed with all of the taxonomy organized. And we connect that feed to leading publishers like Bing. So when you're searching on Bing for one of these types of services, we will actually be powering those buttons for our B2B middleware, of which Booxscale supplies. We not only connect you with publishers, we also connect you with some of the new technology that's out there that users are now starting to use more frequently to interact and engage with marketplaces. And what do I mean by that? I mean things like voice-powered search and bots. So the ability to book through bots and the ability to interact with marketplaces such as Hiyacar and Frugl by talking to your Alexa or your Cortana devices. So that's me. And can I introduce you to Graeme from Hiyacar?
Thank you. So I'm Graeme. I'm the CEO and co-founder for Hiyacar. We're a peer-to-peer car hire platform. Bit like Airbnb, but for cars. So everyone's an Airbnb for something. So we have car owners that they don't use their car that often, and we have people on the other side who need access to a car. So I won't bore you with the stats. Hopefully, be a bit more interactive. Who in the room here owns a car? Well, a few. And out of those, so around about half, 50%. Out of those car owners, how many of you actually use your car more than maybe an hour a day? So my point is, there's lots of cars out there, and people just, you don't use your car. And then on the flip side, people in here that don't own a car, who actually needs access to a car and has a driving license and drives vehicles.
Has access to one.
Or who needs access to one. They don't actually own one, but they need to have a driver's license.
It's better than my car.
Well, actually, yeah, we actually like the not so nice cars anymore. So again, I'd say about half. So for us, it's quite interesting in the slides earlier because so we have a keyless solution. I'll talk a bit more about that, and trust is very important. We've been trading for 18 months. We've been totally been focused on people and then the product. So we raised over 2 million our first year, and that's been invested in the product. We just closed another round to actually go for marketing and revenue. So it's been quite interesting for us seeing the natural growth, but quite a lot of our money has actually been, and time has been spent on the keyless solution. My controversial quote of the night, peer-to-peer car hire does not work without a keyless solution because a BlaBlaCar's issue was people cancelling. Without the keyless solution, your issue is conversion. So everyone now wants things on demand. We have about 90% of our requests for the same day, which is great for us. But the car owners are like, this is great, I've got a request, but I'm sitting at work, I can't do the handover. So our conversion before keyless was around 25%. Keyless has been active for us now for 2 months. It's a lot safer for the car owners and lots of other bits, but fundamentally our conversion has gone up to 60%. We've got a guy, our community team here, got a guy who's got a Bonds Ford Fiesta. It's about 5 years old. Got a quick start technology installed. He made £1,400 last month from his car. So for Hiyacar, we're all about communities, kind of bridging the inequality gap. The cars are kind of secondary. So when you're actually paying somebody £1,400 for it's a lovely Fiesta, but you fundamentally change that person's life.
How's the key?
We're going straight into the questions. Look at this, eh? Yeah. So for the user, I don't know if any of you guys have used Zipcar, but we've got the XMD for Zipcar and also their first-ever investor. So we are very Zipcar heavy because that's the market we're looking to disrupt. For the user, you literally, I've used it, I've got a 5-year-old daughter, it's kind of feel like you're changing the world. You literally walk up to the car, on the app, you get sent an encrypted key. Literally open up the car. If it's a stop-start vehicle, which around 30% of cars are, literally just press a button and off you go. Press it to turn the car off and then lock the car with the app. If it's a car that has as we know, a key, we call that the actual shell. This is really exciting. We call the shell a blade. So basically that blade sits in the car, but there's not any electronics in that, which is fundamental for keyless in the UK. It's never been done before because insurance, basically in the UK, as an individual, you can't have a live key in your vehicle. So it's just a shell of the key, and you use that to turn the barrel. So if somebody actually broke into the car and stole the key, it wouldn't do anything. And we had a lot of fun with AXA, our insurance provider, which again goes down to trust, actually getting this signed off. But fundamentally, for the car owner, it's a lot safer because we can track the cars. We can actually stop people from entering the car. And it's the worst pun ever, and I use it all the time, but it is the key to our business, and it's really exciting. Actually, really exciting. It's amazing.
Thank you, Graeme. Over to Tikiri from Frugl.
Okay, hi, I'm Tikiri from Frugl. We're a self-service marketplace and an aggregator of offers and deals sites like Groupon and Voucher, Living Social, all the ones you've heard of, and then we aggregate and curate the best of those that we deem to be frugal, and that's how we get our content in. And we're also the self-service marketplace, so comedy promoters, music promoters, we're going for small restaurants, small businesses. Those are the guys we're going for, and those are the people that are on our platform. Right now, we're just a website, although we have been app-driven, and I guess we'll talk about why we kind of scale back to website only. What else can I say at this point? That's exactly what we are.
Good introduction. Really good.
Succinct.
So we've got, I think, about 20 minutes or so to have some questions between the panel, and then we're going to really try and open it up to the floor and give you the opportunity to talk to these gentlemen about anything that you'd like. So questions from the floor.
Or jump in at any time if you've got.
Or jump in at any time. Absolutely. So the first sort of theme and subject that I wanted to talk about was data. With my experience working with marketplaces, building marketplaces, etc., data has become a more and more sort of critical component of that development. Funny enough, we've got a colleague of mine, Paul Cook, in the room, who was the ex-head of data insight for Just Eat. And, we've worked with Paul, with all the businesses going forward. And, it's a huge part of, how we set our sales, how we devised our sales plans for supply and demand, and really targeting and customer segmentation and the rest of it. So I really wanted just to ask these guys, what data plays as part of your business today, and maybe we could talk a little bit about how that works for you.
Yeah, so it's obviously very relevant, and data is king. So a great example, just going straight into it, is with our quick start technology, our keyless tech. So when myself and my co-founder started this up in 2014, we always had a vision for keyless technology, and it was more like a 3 to 5 year roadmap thing. When autonomous cars comes along, and I won't bore you with that now, but literally from the first ever car we hired out was mine. It was February 2016. As part of the company, I had the request in. I was like, this is amazing. I'm going to turn my car into an asset, which was my personal thing with Hiyacar. And I managed to actually drive it to London, because I live in Kent, and give it to the lady, and she had a fantastic experience. I made £500 out of that, and I turned my car into an asset. Tick, done. But going back to data, and this is relevant, very, very early on, literally in our first few months, we could see that, so it still is, but around 80% back then of our requests were for the same day. And it was just killing us. We were sitting there saying the owners are unhappy because they've got potential hire. Obviously, they can't actually fulfill it. The drivers aren't happy because, again, they've put a request in. Money's come out of their account. It sits with Stripe. But yeah, and it was just literally from that point, we said, we have to solve this. So in our first 2 months of trading, our biggest investment and our biggest call to date has all been totally from our data. It's just seeing that people needed a car now. And I don't see it so much now, say, a community team. Every Friday, we will literally get somebody online try and book a car because they have a wedding like the next day. Like, seriously, like, you know about a wedding like 6 months in advance. But yeah, it very is much on demand and the data right from the beginning. And it was quite not a punt, but we wanted to get there, but we kind of could see that, we had to bring this forward a lot.
So do you do any sort of customer profiling to try and work out what type of customers hire cars on platforms like your own?
Yeah, 100%. So again, data is the key driver for that. So demographically, the actual profiles, and it is completely data driven. And we're not proud. We get things wrong, and you start the journey saying, okay, our owners. We kind of thought our owners would be maybe mid to late 30s. I don't know why, but we thought the drivers would be a lot younger. But actually, both our demographics from the data is actually early 30s, which is quite interesting. And that's not actually changed too much on the journey. So, we have a data team, and say all of our kind of digital acquisition especially, is based on our on data.
That's very interesting. So most startups, especially in the marketplace space, are trying to deal with this chicken and egg scenario, supply and demand, where you go first, which do you do locally? Do you start in a city, or how do you sort of think about scaling? And, my, thinking is certainly centered around data, because not everyone's got a Coca-Cola marketing budget. So you really need to work out those customers that need to sign up on the platform first, that are going to be the sort of heroes and the ambassadors, and are really going to help drive that sort of supply engagement. And then similarly, being able to source the users onto the platform without the ability to just blast everyone. I remember trying to find people that had toothache, which was a bit of a challenge if you don't start to do a bit of customer segmentation and trying to work out where these people actually are.
Did you end up punching people down the street?
Yeah, only in Q4. When I was trying to hit my numbers. Yeah.
I'd say that is completely on point for us. We just actually, so officially we're only in London. We have hires that go on throughout the whole UK, which is, I think, just been PR we've had. And when people use it, they have a good experience. They talk about it. But actually in London, we go down to postcode. So we can see where their supply, we can see where their demand, and it's literally matching up the two. So if there's huge supply, obviously then we go after the demand and vice versa. And just everything just works, from that. And we very... We haven't. So, and again, this goes. So I won't jump in too much now, being into trust. But our verification is second to none, and we've literally just got the approval. We are the most trusted car hire company in the UK. Our Trustpilot score is 9 out of 10. And when people, we say no to a lot of people, our whole company, especially from the beginning, I'm a bit of a car fanatic. So our ethos is kind of, if I wouldn't let them in my car, or the team wouldn't let them in their car, we won't let them in our community's car. So so we're not spending money on marketing. Just this year, we've done around 2,000 hires. And last year, we did 80 hires in 6 months, to put some context around that. And AXA, our insurance guys, love us. We pay them a lot of money. And we've literally had, so out of 2,000, we had around 4 claims. 3 of them have been £100, and there's one that was £12,000. A guy managed to write off his VW. So actually it wasn't written off in the end. We got it fixed, but he drove into a parked Range Rover as well, which was fantastic. But yeah, still,
he wasn't from your office, no.
He wasn't from our office, no. But it's really interesting because when people use it, hours in the seat. Yeah, it's unbelievable. So we actually, yes. So one of our assumptions at the beginning when we spoke to the insurance guys, and again, we had the chairman of Aon. My wife was in insurance all of her life, and she was quite influential at the company we actually got it underwritten by. But our assumption was it's people's cars. People are genuinely good. And as long as you verify and get, not rid of the bad people, but you really do your best to make sure the people are good at hiring the vehicle, that actually I'm giving your car back to you. And even with the keyless technology, it still is an individual's car rather than the company's. And we got some assumptions wrong. I won't bore you with those now, but that assumption was correct. And people do. And say our Trustpilot score, our NPS score, internally with our reviews, which I'm jumping the gun a bit here, but we don't just ask the driver and the owner to review one another. We actually get them to review Hiyacar as well. So it's a 3-way thing. and it works. And people do treat other people's cars really well. Our biggest problem is when people need a car for longer and they extend it. But because the owner and the hirer are always talking to each other via the app, we don't really get involved. It's just seeing extensions come in. So people, it kind of gives you faith getting back in people. You see, we've been in every national paper, and it's not because of us. It's because of the user stories, like some of the case studies. And I used a car recently to go to Celtic Manor to play some golf, and when I brought the car back, he dropped me back off to the tube station, and just, it's only a small thing, but we've got some fantastic stories, and people do actually care about people, which is great.
Really good, really interesting. Frugl, data, demographics, people using your platform?
The thing about Frugl is we started off as a events discovery listings app only. And there were a couple of decisions made that in hindsight were catastrophic, to put it mildly. I mean, it was because nothing was being sold, there was this feeling by other people that no one should be made to sign up with any details, personal details, and the problem was, obviously, we then didn't know who the hell these people were. And we had like 25,000. We could see that there were unique kind of sign-ins and downloads, rather. But we didn't know who they were. And we'd made it a frictionless process for them to download and then browse all these things. But when we wanted to take it further, and we were just like, well, we know we've got 25,000 downloads, but we don't know who the hell any of these people are. And so when we went to the next stage, which was always sort of a plan to go for this marketplace, we kind of had to start again. And we then had to start really thinking about, well, we need this data. How do we convince a user to part with it? Why should they part? I guess we're going into trust as well, aren't we?
It's all good.
And so having had this kind of really bad, I mean, we all thought, we had massively screwed up. And we had to really work very hard to get all those people back. And from there, obviously, then we could start looking at who those people were, the kind of demographic we were looking at, whether it was male or female, what sort of offers and deals they're into. So that from, as soon as you start with the data, your job becomes immeasurably more simple. Because if you're trying to sell something and you know what people already are looking for or might well be interested in, then you can start pushing those things towards them. And that's how we started to make, that's when we started making some sales. Yeah. But in terms of resources, which I guess, ties into the talk that came before us, we're a very small company, and we had to allocate the resources where we could. So trying to manage all that data and then use it in a development, use that in a development process, and then, all the stuff that goes with that. It's a lot of hard work. It costs a lot of money and takes a lot of time. But the truth is, that's where it is. We know, everyone, I guess, in here knows that if you're going to get this right, you have to get as much data as you can, and then you have to filter it and match it with what it is that you're trying to sell. And I guess we're not quite as far along as you guys, but we're certainly aspiring to get there. I mean, yeah, I don't really have anything more to say other than that.
So my only other thing is, January last year, I was quite fortunate. We got invited to go to San Francisco as part of the UK TI. So it was like Brits to the Bay. So I was out there with Debbie, Was Love Home Swap she sold. LiftShare, know the guys there well, but Hassel. So Alex and Jules, who are both founders of Hassel. And Alex, I don't know if any of you guys had a pleasure to meet them. They're both fantastic women. And I remember literally Alex's first thing, she was like, data. She said, your first couple of people you bring into the team has to be data. And it's something that's always sat there. My background's kind of financial analytical, so I kind of relate to it. But it was, and we at one stage we had 2 data analysts, which was maybe a bit too many at the beginning, and we now have one really good part-time one. But to have that insight at the beginning, literally kind of show you where you're going. It's just,
and to understand the kind of insights that you're getting, I think sometimes can be
being proactive.
Question?
I think for us, it's just kind of comes naturally as people are signing up, and getting people to sign up isn't an issue for us. So you can just kind of analyse that as it's coming in. We don't really, and there's not really anything we don't know that we need to know. It doesn't really help, but our database is ridiculous. We've got nearly 40,000 members top line, which is, we've not spent anything really on marketing yet. But the key for our platform is actually how many of those are engaged. So, that is the vanity metric that we don't really look at. On our own dashboard, it's actually about 10,000 less than that, because we know 10,000 people don't really do much. And then out of the people that actually want to hire a car, it's actually making sure they've gone through the whole pipeline and ready. That's our biggest problem now, is making sure. We've got 28,000 people that are listed to hire a car, but actually only around 1,500 of them can hire a car in the 3 clicks on our app. But some of them haven't got a DVLA code yet, so we're bringing in a product literally the next month, because that's all automated, which make it easier. So it's just I think for us, not the data, we've always been quite lucky with not lucky. We've always had information to analyse.
I think just to add on that, it's one of the reasons you call them data scientists, because there is tools and there are tricks to be able to append data to even light information that you may have collected. I had this at Toothpick. We didn't collect credit card information, for example, so we had to append other information to try and build out that profile that would then give us the same sort of insights or targeting that we would have had if we'd collected that data from the user in the first place. So that, it doesn't work for everything, but certainly you're adding data sets together, you're meshing them together, and you're seeing where you've got some sort of common ground to be able to make a decision and plan against going forward.
I think my only thing, and I don't know if this is relevant, but my co-founder's always been kind of marketplaces, and it's just not to buy data. It's quite tempting at the beginning, especially when you're raising your first lot of funding. And we've got another X amount of members, but it just doesn't work, and we've never done it. And he's helped some really big platforms in the early days get out there. Basically, he was a guy kind of helping send some data. So I just think you can get a lot of information from a very little subset. It's just making sure you've got the right people looking at that data.
I mean, for Frugl, actually, on the self-service marketplace, a user can also be a promoter or someone who's contributing content. So the sign-up process is relatively simple. We're actually making it even simpler. But once you become a promoter, upon signing in again repeatedly, we can ask you questions to make you seem more trustworthy. Give your Instagram, your Twitter, your Facebook, your website. How many other events or offers have you already had on the platform? Sales, that kind of thing. But we can do it afterwards, and keep, every time they sign in, go, have you remembered to upload a new picture, or that kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Questions?
2 very different questions there. For number one, we're very lucky. So again, it goes back to our team, and I could bore you all day about our team, but our CTO was CTO for the world's first peer-to-peer car hire platform, Timing. They just got it wrong. It's called Whipcar, which some of you might know. So, but one of the 2 things he was really good at, as well as lots of other stuff, but was calendar improvements, which is an issue. We flipped that, and we haven't got time to go into that, but with pricing, and it's all about the pricing algorithm. So ours is very basic at the moment. So you put your number plate in, and if your car's too old or you've got a Ferrari, then you can't come on our platform. Even though people with Ferraris do actually want to list their car, which is another story. But we behind the scenes, we'll look at the age of the vehicle, the type of the vehicle, the value of the vehicle, and we'll derive a price. The car owners are in control. Hopefully you'll lower it to get some reviews in and get some hires in. But some people do increase their price. So for us, it is... chat to investors, like new investors. I've looked at your price and you're a bit expensive. It's like, well, yeah, you've looked at the £150 Range Rover that will never get hired out. Oh, sorry. So our commission, we take on average 25. So for our really good owners, we take 20%, and we want everybody to be in that bucket. they're our high earners. And then for everybody else who's trying to make their way up to that level, they get 30%. So yeah, and then there was a question about investors. For us, everything we've done is, I don't like quoting this, but when we chat to investors, Google's very much like Google. They weren't the first search engine, but they were the last. For Hiyacar, we see the same. There's people have been doing this before us, but we have our own conviction, what we think is important. We can take the good and the bad bits. So for us, it's all about sustainability, long term, and you need to if the product's good enough, people will pay for it. And if you're paying somebody 1,400 quid, they don't really care if they've got £1,400 or 1,700 quid.
So we're shortly running out of time here before questions. So we've got a couple of minutes and then we'll open up the floor to questions. And I really wanted to just quickly move on to the other topic. We've got a couple of minutes just to brush over it really, which is, so we've done data and now we're going to talk a little bit about trust, how important trust is. I think we've covered parts of it, in the conversations that we've had already. But, how important is trust within your platform? And I don't just want to talk about ratings and reviews. I think trust is important when you're talking to your developers, whether in-house or outsourced. Trust is also very important with your investors, with your team. So, trust is goes beyond the consumer application. There is also some internal benefits as well. Graeme?
Transparency for me. So again, when my co-founder was setting this company up, it took a long time to get it up and running because of the insurance. I can remember going for a meal. This is relevant. But I remember going for a meal, him with his partner, me and my wife. And I said to his name's Rob, said to his wife, Cheryl, what makes Rob? Well, what is him? And it's kind of his values. And I didn't cop out. I did the same with my wife. And then we basically created this Hiyacar bond, which is kind of our values and our kind of our mission, but our 6 core values as people in the company. And everybody we bring into the team, they kind of get judged more on those rather than their CVs, and it really sets a culture. But I think from us being transparent, every team member comes in, they can see obviously what we're about, and that filters through to investors. I think generally you want to be a good person, and my promise to my shareholders and our team is that we will try our best to do what we think we are going to do. I'm 100% committed to that. And you be honest about the mistakes you make, and obviously he's always learning, but it is really important. And so I think you set an example basically as founders or as just people in the company.
So one of the best marketing techniques for marketplaces is obviously word of mouth, right? And trust is a key, sort of part of that. And does that transpire on the Frugl network? Do you think, people have a good experience and then tell their friends and tell their family? And is that part of your growth engine, or does trust work with the platform in a different way?
Well, I mean, trust, certainly what you were talking about, transparency, setting an example. Suzanne, our CEO, was supposed to be here. I mean, she's a very big and dynamic character, and she leads from, the top. And so her enthusiasm and her values kind of filter down, and she attracts our investors are so kind of behind what we're doing and just really easygoing, and they trust us and we trust them. There's no kind of breathing down our necks all the time, asking for metrics they don't really understand or even have anything to do with it. They just kind of go, we kind of know what you're up to, and we believe in it, and just go forward. So that really helps. That's a huge thing.
Have you got their number?
I'll give it to you later. As for do you mean word of mouth as how the platform itself?
Yeah, I mean, I just would have thought that trust and the experience of people using the Frugl platform is something that is going to be shared, especially in a sort of bootstrapping scenario where you can't do a huge amount of advertising. It's also very expensive to do advertising these days. So the word of mouth engine is really key to really building something.
So Suzanne's background is 20 years in PR. So that's our word of mouth, really, to start with. We haven't done it. We have never had a marketing budget, really. So she's been able to get us a huge amount of exposure just by picking up the phone. And so the kinds of people that have put us in their, either their magazines or on their websites or in the newspapers have kind of given us a bit of credibility. So that's a bit of trust there. We've won a few awards when we were, right from when we started as a native iOS app, and then we were 2 apps, and then we were a website. And as for the word of mouth, I think the best time was probably that early growth when we didn't know who the hell anyone was. It just happened so quickly. Like, we went from 0 to like 10,000 with no marketing budget, and we were like, how is this happening?
So do you have a review capability on the site? On the site? On the site
now, not so much, but obviously the App Store had reviews, and then the Play Store when we were on that.
Interesting to get your comment on the question we had earlier. The variety of reviews. Is it good to have a mix of reviews, or do you think it's
no? You just want good reviews. Come on.
Yeah.
The thing on the problem we faced, I think, on iOS particularly was being responsive. So if I don't know if you've gone through the process of submitting an app to the App Store. It takes ages, even if you've already done it once. And then you do it, someone reports a bug, you can't do anything about it until, you get verified again. Meanwhile, someone's gone on to the App Store, left you some shitty review and says you suck. And then that's there. You can't get rid of it. I can't tell you what an effect it had. I think because we got mostly good reviews. I think it's 5 stars, but every now and again, a big, really lengthy, horrible review comes out, and you panic. You panic that it's going to ruin everything. But I don't think it does. I mean, if you're consistently getting bad reviews, obviously people are going to be like, "This, we're not going to download it." But yeah, I think those reviews, particularly on the App Store as opposed to the Play Store, really helped. I don't know if does anyone really look at the reviews on the Play Store or the App Store, because it never seemed to do us any harm. But maybe it was because we were free.
Sure.
So I think, trust, obviously, for us is the most important thing. We spent a long time getting the insurance policy and AXA and Aon, but one person, you're always learning. That's what I love about what we do. And at one point, we'd actually rebranded more times than I think we had actually done hires, genuinely. And when we did the last one, Hiyacar, I was like, that's it, done, forever, sorted. And then more recently, our CMO, she's a world-class branding strategy person. And I felt a bit of a fake. I kind of sat there and, I'm not talking about all the internal views. I literally sat there and said, hey, for us, it's technology, it's the network effects, and it's the branding. And we have the best brand out there in the world. And she was like, you don't. Like, okay. And she was like, you have the best name out there. She said, whoever come up with Hire as genius, we've got Hire whatever in the future. She said, but you don't have a brand. She's like, all the stuff you talk about, your values, she's like, it's just not there. It's like, okay. And she launched she basically helped launch Airbnb. She did the Meerkat. She's a fantastic experience. So you kind of listen to these people, and it was great seeing how excited she was. But literally in the last month, we've done a rebrand, and it goes down to trust fundamentally. Because our little smiley car, which I haven't got, I used to have wear everything Hiyacar, but because it's old now, it's dead, and I've got our new branding on the watch and everything. But it goes live in 2 weeks. But fundamentally, our new brand just installs trust. The friendly car apparently wasn't too trustworthy, and they had 10 designers look at this, and none of them used it. We're like, okay, we'll keep the name. But it was a real learning curve to actually see how trust affects people's perception. And I did a talk at Rocket Space, my last thing, about 2 weeks ago. It was in front of a load of corporates, and the lady was like, I've heard of Hiyacar. I went to use you a couple of weeks ago, but everything you've been speaking about your verification, blah, 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 she said, I just didn't get from the website. So I actually went with Zipcar. And she said, but it was literally just her going on and just that recognition of, I was like, geez. I was like, well, actually, we've got a rebrand, so hopefully that'll come. So we're really excited about the rebrand because it looks a lot more ownable, professional, it's about movement. But fundamentally, it's all about trust, and it's cost us a lot of money to get here. But it is so crucial, especially when with us as cars, what we do.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So let's open it up to some questions. We've got about 10 minutes of questions. Where should we start? You at the front.
Product. All about the product. You deliver a good product, people talk about it. We had a few things like PR-wise. So we had the founders of Photobox invest in us, so they got some good PR. We helped curate we did a tax thing with eBay and Airbnb, so that was good. But fundamentally, it's a product. It goes back to word of mouth. Now, if we've paid you, when people use us, they have the most amazing experience, and we can see that by our reviews and our repeat usage. You're down the pub or wherever you are, hopefully not one of our cars down the pub, but you're talking about, I'm buying this round because of Hiyacar. And people just use it. And we launched our referral scheme 2 weeks ago, and that's going to be the key driver. We're doing some interesting stuff on the business side as well, which I think is really important in marketplaces, which I won't go into, but I'm more happy to afterwards if you want to talk.
Let's take another question.
Products.
Thanks, Graeme.
Yeah. It's fundamentally, it's timing. So they were just too early to market. So you think, well, obviously technology changed a lot now. And I can talk firsthand because our CTO, say he was there. You think back then, yeah, so Airbnb, obviously, they only came to UK in 2012. And still, when you come out of London and you talk to people, say, hey, well, we're Airbnb for cars. They're like, who Airbnb? You're like, seriously? Especially our CMO, she didn't like to hear that. But it's only been recently people got their head around sharing stuff. And Airbnb have been great for us. So, yeah, timing, but also, say, technology. You think now everyone's pretty much got a smartphone. And just one kind of example, which I think's fascinating. When Whipcar went down in 2013, they actually had an app, you might have experienced it, called the Weekend app, because people would sign up on a Tuesday, book a car that day to pick up on a Friday. So we're only talking about 3 years ago now. So their whole business around people booking early, picking it up 3 days later for a long weekend away. Now, so literally not over 90% of our requests are for the same day. So just in 3 or 4 years, you can see people's mindsets. So it's all on demand. And we all want everything now, which wasn't the case back then. But I think timing has actually been proven. There's a big study went out in the US that is the first thing that, if a company's successful or not. So, yeah, but yes. And also the thing Whipcar did, which we definitely won't do, and it was very relevant to the ladies' presentation earlier, was about supply and demand. Their investors started to get a little bit, come on, we need to see bigger growth. So they raised £1 million. It lasted them 4 years, which is unbelievable. We've spent double that in our first year. But you say that their investor basically we need to grow overnight, so go nationwide, and they did. And then as soon as you do that, you lose that supply and demand element. And so we have not really competitors, but we know Easy Car Club picked up from where Whipcar left off, and I know Richard very well. A great company doing really good things. But I think even they would say, no, I probably went nationwide too quickly.
Sure.
How do I plan to
compete with electric cars?
No, we love electric cars. So keyless technology, we're working with OLEF now, because the problem without keyless technology, your traditional car hire, which is 4 days a year, and we have people trying to take an electric car to Bath and back in 2 days, which is not good for anyone when we don't do Teslas. So for us now, the keyless technology, we can generally start doing the things we want to do, which is reducing car ownership. Because if you know you can get to your neighbour's car in seconds, using our technology, you don't need to own a second car, you don't need to own a primary car. And to run your errands, so Zipcar Market, maybe shouldn't be quoting some of these figures, but they've done so they have over 1,000 cars and they do tens of thousands of hires each month. And their average duration is around 5 hours to a day. This is a market we're entering. So if you're doing a 5-hour journey around London or wherever in the UK, the most perfect thing is to hire your next door neighbour's electric car. So we're working with OLEF to try and push more electric cars at the moment. This is quite important for us.
Great. Any more questions? Yes, sir.
So we've got two things come to mind. So I'll talk about insurance. But when we started trading, there was things like, it doesn't happen that often. Our first ever breakdown was in France. And insurance took so long to get on board. So we got partners like the AA, we've got other people that go and fix your car if it's scratched. So that's a good side. So if anything happens, our policy with AA supersedes the car owner's insurance policy and the driver. So everyone's covered. But you get those things that happen, which just, it's no one's fault. It's just a puncture or a flat battery. So our first ever breakdown, which was great, was in France. But okay, we've never used the AA. It's in France, and we had a telematics box in it. And basically, they said, "Oh, we need to be out of this field in 4 hours' time because we're coming home. It's a campsite." and we managed to get that fixed. Well, we got AA to contact their people, and they recovered the car. But whose fault is that? Is it the owners because they had a flat battery? Is it the drivers who left the lights on? You just don't know. So one of the things I added value was said, right, let's create a thing called the triangle of trust. So basically, we're a marketplace. We win and lose together. So in that instance, we would just split the costs 3 ways, and it's something quite powerful and something we really push. It's if you've broken down, it's been a tyre has burst. That isn't the driver's fault. It's not the owner's fault. So yeah, for us, we sort out those kind of grey area things by using this triangle of trust, and it works really well. It's
interesting.
That was my term as well. I'm not very marketing, so I was quite happy with that.
I want to use that.
I talk about it all the time.
One more question then. Just gentleman on the left.
For us, so critical mass, I think we still don't know. Well, we know that in London at the moment, there's pretty much a Hiyacar within 10 minutes walk of everybody. When we double our fleet, which we will do in the next 6 months, there will be a Hiyacar within a 5-minute walk from everybody. So for us, it's on the critical mass side, it's just kind of seeing, don't really know what we used to. For us, it's just seeing where the supply and demand is. If we have loads of people that are requesting the car, then we increase the supply side. So I don't think we don't have critical mass at the moment. But what we do have is users that use it a lot and use it well, and we have a really good product. And now we start going out officially to other cities. So that scalability. But for us, for our car owners, they don't need our tens of thousands of hires. They only need 5 or 6 because people kind of they use that car. We see it all the time. You use a car for the first time, and then a month later they'll see that there's a car closer to them, which is cheaper. They're like, no, I'm going to this lady's car because I know her, I know the car, and it feels like theirs. So you only really need 4 or 5 drivers, and that's kind of the critical mass for that owner. Yeah, we don't really have to. It goes back to that chicken and egg. You don't need a load of cars. Like if we have the largest fleet, or our fleet's definitely larger than Zip cars in the UK already. This time next year, we want the largest keyless fleet. But for us, it's not about, the owners it's been quite easy, to be honest. For us, it's about getting really engaged, good quality owners. It goes back to the higher earners with the commission. If people are getting requests and they keep rejecting it, our community team are actively contacting these people saying, it's just not good enough. It's not good enough experience for the drivers. This person wants your car. It's not good enough for us. Manage your calendar, and we can help you do that, or get a keyless box in if the car's available and you're not. So for us, it's just being efficient with the numbers we have, and you can kind of just see. It'd be great this time next year to know exactly, what those critical mass figures are. But for us, it's working quite nicely and organically. And
thank you very much. And I think that's a wrap, everybody. So thank you, Graeme. Thank you, Tikiri. I think we've had a great session.